Drop a comment in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Let me know where you're tuning in from. So we doing gardening 102 today. We just going deeper into what we've already established. So yesterday we talked about, you know, just gardening for beginners, what you should do, how you should get started, you know, and just learning different things as far as what gardening is. And, you know, setting up your garden the right way, right? So today we're gonna go further into it. So we got our book, Back to the Basics again, right? And this, I heavily recommend you get this book. I heavily recommend you get this book if you want to be self-sufficient, if you want to be a homesteader, farmer, anything like that. You just want to provide your own food. Definitely go ahead and grab this book right here. But if y'all coming in, man, please hit that like button, drop a comment in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Let me know if I'm making sense. You know, all that good stuff. All that good stuff, man. It's a beautiful day today. Yesterday, see, it was a little cloudy, it was chilly and all that type of stuff. Today, the sun is out. It's still a little breeze, but it ain't too hot. So, you know, that's what I love. What's going on, Milan? Shalom, shalom, fam. Shalom, fam. So today, we still in gardening. We talking about preserving food. You know, and I kind of hit on this, but we're gonna go deeper into preserving food and just, you know, just different things. So, and look, I'm just teaching straight out the book. I'm teaching straight out the book, and, you know, just adding my experiences too. But I feel like, you know, this is stuff that we should all know, especially when you saying you want to be self-sufficient, you want to be a homesteader, or whether you just want to start a garden and start, you know, growing more healthy food. What's going on, KB's Gardening Journey? What's going on? What's going on? Y'all please make sure y'all hit that like button too. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Hope everybody's day is going wonderful. Hope everybody's day is going wonderful. You know what I'm saying? Pray you're getting a lot done. I'm sorry, y'all. It seemed like, I'm sorry, y'all. It seems like every time I be going live, man, and I'm doing something productive, somebody try to call my phone, or these scam lightly be trying to call my phone. Let me know if I'm back in right now. Let me know if I'm back in. Somebody was just trying to call me. So let me know if I'm back on, and let me know if y'all can hear me. Sorry about that. When y'all let me know I'm good to go, we gonna jump right into it. I'm in the field today. Y'all see the woods behind me? Okay, I'm good. Cool, 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 cool. Yeah, man, that's how I be, man. When you're trying to Barack Obama, I'm about to I'm gonna put you in timeout. Hold on. I'm gonna go ahead and put you in timeout. We don't want no yeah. We don't want none of that, those bots and all that type of stuff, trolls in the comment. All right, so I'm good. All right, cool. All right, so yesterday we talked about gardening 101. No, I'm not saying your name. I'm referring to the guy in the chat. No, I'm not saying your name. But yesterday we just talked about getting started and everything. And look, everything has come straight from this book. This book is called Back to Basics. And this book right here is like, you know, it's the self-sufficiency, you know, starter kit, in my opinion. I feel like everybody should at least have this if you want to live this type of lifestyle. Because this book goes over everything from A to Z, living out on the land, picking land, buying land, cultivating that land, building on that land, building structures, barns, raising livestock, gardening, preserving, you know, and just making byproducts from what you harvest, whether it's soaps, candles, you know, just all of that type of stuff, digging wells, everything self-sufficiency this book talks about. So yesterday we talked about beginners in gardening, right? Growing certain things, you know what I'm saying? Dang, I forget the term, but basically, oh man, I hate that I can't think of the term, but basically what I was talking about yesterday is how you can grow two things by each other and they'll thrive. You see what I'm saying? Versus, you know, if you growing like and just having the knowledge to know what grows better with what and what doesn't do so well with what. So we talked about all that yesterday. So check that live out as well. Your sound is going in and out. It's still going in and out? Let me know if it's still going in and out. Cause Milan just said I was good. Your family has plenty of cotton farm experience. that's a bot right there. Matter of fact, I'm gonna just hide him from my channel. That's what happened when man, is it just me? Well, I know y'all probably don't post videos and stuff, but I don't know if it's just me. If any of my other content creators, especially the colored folk like me, I don't know if y'all been getting racist comments in y'all chat. But I've been getting racist comments in my chat, man, and in my comments on my videos. Y'all hit that like button too, please. All right, Ronald, I appreciate you. But yeah, I've been getting some racist comments, man. It's crazy, but you know, I don't pay no attention. That just let me know I'm doing something good because you know, people feel the need, or bots or trolls or whoever feel the need to take the time out their day to comment on my videos. So I appreciate it because it helps the algorithm, whether it's negative or positive. I just delete them though. Okay, cool. But Marcus, I'm gonna go ahead and put you in. I need to get a moderator in here. I'm gonna put you in timeout though. I'm a moderator on another channel. He gets a lot of bot troll activities. Oh yeah, see? Okay, so it's not just me. It's not just me. The other content creators are getting, okay, cool, Milan. See, I figured that. See, they in here talking about all that type of stuff, see? Yeah, them bots is like, them bots are crazy. Let me hide this user from my channel. What's going on, Tommy? What's going on? But I just look at it as I'm doing something right. I'm teaching people. My content is getting out there. So I just look at it in a positive manner. So like if the negativity comes, it just let me know that it's reaching more and more people. So I don't really pay it no mind. I just, like I say, I'm the type of person, I'm gonna just block you. Cause I know you ain't the type of person, a lot of these trolls, or whether they bots or whatever, but a lot of these trolls, man, they will never say this stuff to my face. They'll never say this stuff to anybody's face. Man, I'm gonna go ahead and block you too. What does that have to do with this conversation? I'm gonna put you in timeout. And they are very racist. Yeah, yes they are. Yes, very racist. Like somebody commented on one of my videos and called me the N-word. I was like, dang. Hey, what's going on, growing what I eat? What's going on, fam? Yeah, Tommy, I don't know what's wrong with people. Honestly, I don't really care though. It's funny to me. You know what I mean? It's fun. Like when I see like these comments and stuff, these racist trolls, it's just funny to me because it's like, why are you so bothered? How's it going, brother? Hey, it's going good, man. I can't complain. It's a beautiful day today. And look, I'm chopping it up with y'all. You know, this is where I'd rather be right now. So everything is going well. Hope everything going well on your end as well. But yeah, Tommy, I don't know what's wrong with people, man. All this stuff, like I feel like if you go out of your way to be negative and comment on somebody else's video or feel the need to say all this type of stuff, you have no life. You have no life, and you are clearly bothered. You see what I'm saying? Because typically people who don't like certain things, they will just avoid it. Like if I'm scrolling down my timeline, whether I'm on whatever platform, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, if I see a video that I don't like, if I see a clip that I don't like, I just block it and move on about my day, or I dislike it or whatever. But I usually like to block stuff. So it's like, you know, people who take the time and the extra effort to comment something negative or racist on somebody's comment, it don't make sense to me. Not much. I just got in from watering the garden. Most definitely. Do you prefer new farming tools or old farming tools? I prefer a little bit of both. I feel like you should definitely have manual tools on your homestead, and just in the event that, you know, something happens and we don't have electricity, it don't even have to be the grid going down. It could just be like a natural disaster. You get a tornado sweep through, or a hurricane that comes through, or some sort of natural disaster, and you're not able to use electricity. So I definitely say having both. But I do believe in, you know, new power tools as well, because they allow you to get the job done a lot quicker. There's only a few good people in this world. We need more. Absolutely. That's why it's each one teach one, man. That's why, you know, I just try to be a light. I just try to shine a light. Stay grounded, bro. I appreciate that, Ronald, for sure. All right, so let's get into it, right? Let's get into it. Like I said yesterday, we kind of got into a lot of the basics of gardening. You know, for people who are just wanting to get into gardening, they want to, you know what I'm saying, learn different things. I feel like yesterday was a good beginner's video. So today we're going to talk about preserving the harvest. So once you learn how to start growing your food, how do you preserve it and make it last over a period of time, right? And this is part 4 or chapter 4 in this book called Back to Basics, right? In this book, like I say, it doesn't go too in depth, but it goes in depth though. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it'll teach you the basic things you need to know in the basic subjects or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Whatever particular subject you're on, it'll teach you the basics of that subject. So you can go and do further research if you want to become an expert in certain things, right? So it talks about raising livestock, and it gives you the basics on raising livestock. But if you want specifics on raising livestock, like you want to know the vaccinations, and you want to know, you know, the best feed to give them and how much to give them and breeding just right, all that type of stuff, then you can you can do, you know, further research and buy other books on, you know, the expertise of those certain fields. But this right here gives you a basic overview, and that's what I love about this book. So I'm gonna start off. I'm gonna start off just with the beginning of the chapter, right? I'm gonna read something from this paragraph, right? It says, once the harvest is in, the next job is to make sure it does not go to waste, right? So once you get the and I hit on this before, but once you get the harvest in, the goal is to make sure that it don't go to waste, to make sure that you can preserve that harvest, to make sure that that harvest will last you, to make sure that corn you grew, that it's gonna last you, to make sure those tomatoes that you grew, you got just a boatload of them, you got a nice harvest of those tomatoes, to make sure they last you. When you got all this okra, when you got all these peas in, when you got all these potatoes in, to make sure that they don't go to waste, to make sure they don't rot, to make sure, you know, the pests and the birds and, you know, a lot of these other animals don't get to them and spoil them and eat them. You want to make sure that the harvest is being preserved so it can last you and your family, because I don't know about y'all, but I'm growing food for my family to eat. I'm not just doing this willy-nilly, you know what I'm saying, to say, well, oh, well, it don't really matter what happens to it. No, I'm growing this for a reason. You know what I'm saying? And most people, I imagine, who have gardens, who have homesteads, are growing their food. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you want to take it serious. So once the harvest is in, the next job is to make sure it does not go to waste. It says, country folks call this process putting by. So old timers and old, you know, farmers and stuff, old school people, they call the process of preserving their food, they called it putting by. So you basically putting, you know what I'm saying, you putting these things to the side and you're storing them and you're preserving them to make sure that you can get by in the future. When you can get by in those lean months, in the winter months when nothing is growing like that. You can get by until the next harvest comes in the next year. Let me know if I'm making sense in the chat. Let me know if I'm making sense in the chat, man. Y'all talk to me. Talk back to me. All right. So the country folks call this process putting by, storing up today's surplus against tomorrow's shortage. So you want to store up today's surplus, and that's the thing. You want to do this in life in general, but of course in your garden. But look, let's just talk about that though. Let's stay right there. You want to do that in life. You want to put by, meaning, so like, let's just say, right, okay, this month you get a surplus of funds in. Like I'm talking about double, triple what you usually make, right? And you're ahead on everything. You know what I mean? You don't owe nobody nothing. You get this surplus in. The job is not to go and blow that surplus. The job is to either reinvest the surplus or put it by, put it to the side, put it somewhere where it can collect interest, but at the very least, put it somewhere where you're not touching it, where it can stay where it's at for the lean months, for the times when you might not make as much as what you usually make, for the times when, you know, the inflation is coming and you know what I'm saying? All these things that's happening in the economy, prices are going up, they coming down, they going up, they coming down. So in those times, at least you have something put up or put by so you can get by. I'm a girl and my son with the farm. I'm not waiting around to be poisoned. Yep, exactly. Have to get my biological to buy and sell. You know, exactly. That's what I'm saying. We don't want to be sitting ducks. We do not want to be sitting ducks. Oh, thank you, Auntie. That's my auntie right there, Sheena G. Shout out to my auntie. Thank you for that super chat, Auntie. I appreciate it. I appreciate that. But that's really my cousin. But you know how, you know, in the South sometimes, you know, your older cousin, you call them Auntie. But yeah, I appreciate that, Auntie. But so yeah, so that's the thing, right? You know, it's with gardening, farming, it's with whatever, but you always want to live by the principle of storing up the excess of today or the surplus of today against tomorrow's shortages. They all, you know, we've all heard it growing up. You always want to save for a rainy day because rainy days do come. Rainy days do come. That's the thing. And I talked about this the other day. Don't ever think that anything you see can't happen to you. Don't ever think that. Don't ever think, because we see people in third world countries and they starving and they just had an economic collapse and they got to break into the zoos and eat the animals and they got to go pillage and do all this type of stuff because their government was corrupt and their government, you know, just messed up their economy. Don't ever think that that can't happen to us. Don't ever think that. But the goal is knowing it's a possibility that that could happen. I hope that it don't happen, but just in case it happens, I'm gonna save up for a rainy day. So just in case it happens, I'm gonna make sure that I'm not in these city limits and I'm out on some land and I know how to grow some food. I got buku seeds stored up. I got animals that's reproducing. I got a way to protect those animals. You know what I'm saying? I have, you know what I'm saying? I have ways of storing and preserving the food that I do get. I have a way to get fresh water. I know how to collect rainwater. I have the life skills. I have the tools I need to survive just in case any of this happens to our country, because don't ever think it can't happen to our country. And that's not fear mongering. That's just being real. That's just teaching preparedness, because you always want to be prepared for the unknown, because you never know what can happen. That's just the truth about it, right? All right, so storing up today's surplus against tomorrow's shortage. So, and especially when you gardening and you farming and you live in this type of lifestyle, you want to store up the excess. So, you know, whether you butchering animals, you're only as rich, you're only, oh yeah, you're only as rich as your seed bank. Exactly. That's why, I forget what country it is. I don't know if is it in the Arctic somewhere where they have the seed vault. Let me know where that's at in the chat if y'all know what I'm talking about, where they have all like the world seeds, you know, that they, just in case whatever happens in this world, you know, they have seeds stored up in this vault, and it's in this real like tundra cold place. Let me know where that's at. But yeah, so like, yeah, you only, what's going on, G Mama? You only as rich as your seed bank, right? So making sure that you have those seeds, making sure that you have those things put up. But all right, so preserving produce, right? Preserving the produce. All right, it says one harvest can provide a year-round feast for your whole family, right? And that's the thing, when it goes in, you know, what goes into gardening before you start. Remember what I said yesterday, right? Planning ahead of time before you start. What's going on tonight? Way appreciate you. Oh, it's in Norway. Okay, appreciate that tonight. Way appreciate that, fam. Candyman says candy. Yeah, we gonna get into that though. We finna talk about that. But remember I said yesterday, you want to plan ahead for your garden. If you want a successful garden, that means you need to plan months ahead, months in advance. You need to plan in the off season. Just like professional athletes, what do they do in the off season? They conditioning their body. They still practicing. They doing all this stuff. They preparing for the next season that's coming up. And so that's the same thing with gardening. You want to make sure that you're planning ahead. And so if you plan the right way, one harvest can provide a year-round feast for your family. And that's why it's important. Man, my acid reflux want to act up at the wrong time. But that's why when you're planning, you want to make sure you're planning for everybody in your family. You want to make sure you're growing the essentials that you guys need and that you're gonna eat. So if you know, like, well, my family, like, we love a lot of potatoes, and we like a lot of, like, we eat pizza and stuff like that, or spaghetti, you know, meals like that. So okay, that means tomatoes you want to grow, potatoes. You might can grow some grains as well. You know what I'm saying? Make you some bread. If y'all eat a lot of bread, you can grow some grains. You can grow some ancient grains, or you could just grow some regular grains. You can grow corn if y'all eat a lot of like corn, things that have to do with corn, because with corn you can get grits, you can get cornbread, you know, things you use cornmeal for. You know what I'm saying? You can make tortillas, and you can just eat the corn regular. You feel what I'm saying? You can make popcorn. So it's like, you know, it's a lot of things you could do with corn. So just putting that thought into saying, okay, we want a harvest that's gonna last us year round, or at least into the next harvest. So we're gonna plan for this garden to, you know what I'm saying, provide us a harvest that's gonna last us into the next harvest, which is probably like a year, 11 months, whatever. And so when you're doing that, you need to plan out everything. Okay, so we need to grow X amount of this. We need to grow X. We eat this, we eat that. Onions, garlic, peppers, you know, potatoes, tomatoes, okra, you know, corn, you know, things like that, whatever it is that you eat. So you want to put that on paper and plan it out. Okay, so how much of each will I need to grow? You see what I'm saying? And how much space will I need to do it? We can have certain, like we don't have to grow everything in the garden. Like things that we want to grow in bulk, like grains or corn, you could have another part of your property where you just grow that specifically, so you can grow more of it. You feel what I'm saying? Basil, yeah. I have a tiny garden as I live in a trailer park, but I do produce very well even on a micro standpoint. And that's the thing, right? You can grow a lot on the micro level. Like a lot of people don't realize that. See, I'm gonna tell y'all something, right? And then we gonna get back into it. But micro farming, you know, homesteading is gonna be the way for the future. Because as we see what's going on, right? We see a lot of these powers that be, if you will, for lack of better terms, are pretty much buying up a lot of these large, you know, large farmlands and stuff like that. Now, I'm not saying, you know, local people and everyday people don't own large farms, because they still do. But what I'm saying is, you can clearly see that they're kind of monopolizing a lot of the large farms and stuff like that. So the way going forward, in my opinion, will be small scale homesteading, micro farming for the majority of people. And that's how it was, you know, going back in the day. That's how it was back in the day. Everybody used their front yard and their backyard and grew their food. Because a lot of people think you need all these acres to grow food. You don't need all these acres to grow food. You just need a standard size backyard, front yard that you can grow a lot in it. How you think our country survived the Great Depression? The average man and woman survived the Great Depression. They was growing food in their front and backyard. How you think we survived, you know, in early days before a lot of these modern inventions and stuff like that? Because everybody grew food in their own space. And the things that you didn't grow, you could trade and you could barter for it, or you could buy it if you need to. You feel what I'm saying? Let me know if I'm making sense. You do hydroponics or no? Not yet, but I want to get into it. Exactly, G Mama, staple crops. Exactly. Corn, beans, and squash, known as the three sisters, grow all together. Yep, and I talked about that, Amanda, yesterday. Companion growing. I couldn't think of the term just a few minutes ago, but it's called companion planting or companion growing, something like that. Right now I grow my stuff up, the trellis, everything. Exactly. So if you're in a small space, you can maximize that space. You can maximize that space by using garden beds, by using trellises, like growing things that grow up on trellises vertically. You feel what I'm saying? You can even like have a hydroponic setup where you're growing fish, you know what I'm saying, but you also growing plants in that same setup. So it's like utilizing the space that you have, being creative with it. Do you grow chilies, bro? No, I don't think I grew no chili peppers. I grew jalapenos before and bell peppers, but not chilies. I grew in hydroponics. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, G Mama do hydroponics. So y'all check out G Mama with that. All right, so one harvest can provide a year-round feast for your family, right? In the not too distant past, drying, salting, and live storage were the only ways known for preserving produce. So, you know, in ancient times, right? You know what I'm saying? In earlier times, these were the main three methods. Drying your food out. So when you, let me know if y'all can see me. I know that sun kind of beaming down. Let me adjust it real quick. Yeah, that sun shining bright. But so anywho, there were three main ways. Drying your food out. God is good too. He will get an increase if it's his will. Absolutely, I agree. He gives what you need yearly, even if we don't think so in our human eye. Absolutely, Cheyenne, you are absolutely right. He gives the increase. We can plant the seed, we can water, but it is God, it is the Most High who gives the increase. So I definitely agree with that. But there were three main ways of storing food, right? Preserving food, drying it out, just like I'm doing right now with the goldenrod that's growing on my property. I'm drying out that herb right there. You could do the same thing with a lot of different foods. You could dry out things like tomatoes. You could dry out, different vegetables, peppers. And things like that, and you can preserve it. Like you can make your own seasoning. A lot of people don't know what that let's say you grow bell peppers. You done preserve some, you done can some, you done did this, did that. Excuse me. And you still got more. You could dry out the rest of it and you can grind it up into powder, and that's paprika. You see what I'm saying? Now you got seasoning as well. Now you got seasoning as well as, the freeze-dried vegetables, or the whatever, however you did it, the canned or whatever. But it's many ways you could do it. So drying out is one. Salting. We don't really do that as much in America, but even in a lot of the countries, they still do that. Like they salt the fish and they salt different meats and stuff like that. But that's what they used to do in antiquity, right? Because we didn't have like refrigeration. They would salt the meat to cure it and all that type of stuff. And then you have live storage, just storing it live. And that's how a lot of what we do now, like, we just refrigerate it. You feel what I'm saying? We leave it in refrigerators. But back then they didn't have refrigeration, so how would they do that? They would use like things like root cellars and things like that. Or they would live store it in the wintertime because it's naturally gonna be cold outside, and they just, insulate it. What's going on, Chevelle's Happy Gardening? What's going on, family? Yes, sir. Sun-dried tomatoes are amazing as well. Exactly. Yep. Many African countries and countries like Italy, Portugal, China do all of this. Exactly. Yes, they do. And a lot of those countries that do that, their food is a lot better quality than ours. You see what I'm saying? Like, They don't believe in all these chemicals and stuff like that. You know, they still kind of live, and they put a lot into their food sources. We don't really necessarily do that. You know what I mean? We don't necessarily do that. Like, we use chemicals to preserve our food a lot of times, that it has a longer shelf life, so it can be sold for profit. But if, a lot of those countries, they do that. You know, they freeze dry stuff, they salt their foods. You know what I'm saying? They do traditional ways of preserving food. And you understand, especially in a lot of those countries, they understand that, hey, food ain't supposed to be, you know, have a shelf life for 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years just being on the shelf. You know what I mean? Especially depending on what it is. You know what I mean? So they just know that it's just certain, you know, food is supposed to, like, yes, you could preserve it, you know, and it'll have a long shelf life, but it ain't supposed to be like how it is now. Like, oh man, we storing this up to 3-4 years, you know what I'm saying? All these things, but you got to use a chemical to do that. You can't really do that organically because nature. What's going on, Brenda? All right, so in the not too distant past, drying, salting, and live storage were the only ways known for preserving produce. The Indians of North and South America depended on sun-dried foods. So, you know, that's something that, you know, that I didn't necessarily know, but like in the Americas, they sun-dried their food. You know what I'm saying? That was their way of preserving the food. They sun-dried it. Now, you got certain countries where they would use salt, and you got certain countries where they, you know what I'm saying, it was cold enough to where they could live store a lot of it for, you know, a good amount of time. American settlers survived bitter winters by eating salt-cured produce or vegetables stored in live root cellars. Caesar's army carried pickled food with it. That's another thing, pickling. Pickling is another way to preserve your food. Also, smoking the meat as well. Like, if you have, like, a lot of times people will have a smokehouse. So like, if they have, let's say they hunted deer, or they raise beef, or they raise pork, a lot of times they will go and smoke that meat. And that meat would last a long time because it was smoked. You know what I mean? And they still do that in other countries. They'll smoke that meat and dry it out. And then, you know, all you need to do is, my bad, something distracted me. But all you would need to do, you know, is when you want to cook it, you know, you can rehydrate it. Peace. I appreciate you sharing the info for sure. Novi for sure. Right. So pickling food, that's another one. All right, so let's talk about some of these ways. Let's get into it. So live storage, either above ground or below ground. Preserve produce with minimum alteration in taste, color, and vitamin content. So if you don't really want to alter the taste, because when you salt things or when you pickle things, it's going to alter the taste. Like, pickled onion don't taste like a regular onion, of course. So like, when you do some of these preserving methods, it's going to alter the taste. If you don't want to alter the taste or the vitamin content, different things like that, then you will figure out a way to live store your food. You would want to figure out a way to live store your food. And like I said, we have refrigeration now. So a lot of times people will have like multiple refrigerators or deep freezers or whatever, and they could just store it like that. And it'll have, you know, it'll have a nice shelf life because you're live storing it. And it won't alter the taste. It won't alter the texture. It won't alter the vitamin content that's within it. So live storage, that's the first one. And, excuse me, like I said, now we have refrigerators. Back then, what you would use is a root cellar, right? And root cellars can be dug in the ground. They could be between, you know, above ground and below ground, and they could be above ground. You could build them however you want to build them, depending on where you live at. You can build them. You can engineer them how you want to. But one thing about live storage that it says, however, such storage requires certain temperature ranges. Winters must be cold enough to slow down food deterioration. So one thing, like living in Southeast Georgia, or if you live in like somewhere like Florida, you know what I mean, in the South, like in a tropical climate where it don't get really cold like that, then you ain't gonna be trying to build no root cellar. You know what I mean? Like, you ain't gonna be trying to do live storage outside of putting stuff in the refrigerator, because it doesn't get cold enough in the winter to store that food and to preserve that food. It don't get cold enough, like say in somewhere like a North Dakota, or, you know, somewhere up north in New York, where the winters they get below freezing. The ground is actually freezing and it's cold. And so you can store your vegetables. You can even store your meat out. That's what people don't realize. Like, let's just say you butcher. And this is something that my uncle taught me, right? Because my uncle, and he's kind of my mentor, because he used to farm. He used to own land and do all that stuff. But one thing he taught me, he was like, hey, whenever you want to typically butcher to, in bulk toward the end of the year, end of fall, early winter. That way you can store your meat outside. You know what I'm saying? And it won't go bad because the temperatures are conducive for that. Shalom and Toda for the information you're sharing. Oh, for sure, the nurse Juris doctor, I appreciate it. So, live storage, but that's live storage, right? You wanna be able to store, but you want to be able to live in a place to where you can store that food above ground, and the temperature is conducive for that. So that's live storage. And it says, but food must not be allowed to freeze. In addition, only certain fruits and vegetables can be stored by this method, notably apples, pears, and root crops. So there are some fruits and vegetables that are not good for live storage, but there are some that are better. All right, canning. And this is another one that's typical as well. And a lot of people are picking up this skill. Matter of fact, we have a canner as well. A lot of people are picking up this skill. And I feel like canning is one of the most, I feel like it's more realistic and easily accessible for everybody, including the beginner, because it don't cost much really to get into canning your own food, especially once you put the initial investment up front to buy the canner, to buy the cans that you're gonna store it in, or the mason jars you're gonna store it in, or whatever. Once you get that initial investment, you can reuse those materials and resources. Facts waiting on some 21-day aged beef right now based on your last comment. Oh, that's gonna be amazing. The night wait, I know that's gonna taste amazing. That dry aged beef or that aged beef, I know that's gonna be good. But canning, it says involves heating to high temperatures, resulting in vitamin loss and changes in taste. So it says, so it changes the taste slightly, not much like a pickling or salt in the produce would, but it changes the taste slightly. And it says it also loses vitamin content from the vegetables or fruits, whatever you're canning. So that's something to take into consideration. It's pros and cons to everything. That's why you have to find the right balance for you. A lot of people think like, man, my way is the perfect way. No way is the perfect way. It's perfect for you, but what might be good for you might not be good for somebody that live in another region of the world or may have different needs than you. So there's no way that's the perfect way, but it can be perfect for your situation. That's why I tell people, get the principles and get the core information and adjust it based off of your needs and tweak it based off of your needs. This with everything in life. Not just farming and homesteading, but just everything. Learn the bare bones of it. Learn the skeleton, and you can add the meat on. You know what I'm saying? However, you can proportion it how you want to proportion it based off of your needs, your lifestyle, how you envision it. But just learn the principles first. So learn the principles of storing food and figure out, okay, well, I might could do canning some. I could do some live storage with some. I can freeze some. I could probably build me a little small smokehouse, and I could smoke some meat. You see what I'm saying? Just different things like that. But using common sense. Plus butchered in the fall, the animals have more fat and muscle storing up. Oh, that's a good point, Los Thomas. I appreciate you bringing that up. So Los said, butchering in the fall, the animals have more fat and muscle from storing up to make it over the winter. That is so true. Coming from a backyard butcher, for lack of better terms, when I butcher sheep or goats in the fall, you see what I'm saying? Or, early winter, they typically have more fat. They have more fat around their kidneys. They have more, just more fat in general because they're storing up over over winter time. You know what I mean? Versus if I'm butchering in the spring, late spring, summer, they don't have as high as a fat content as they do in the later months of the year. So that's a real great point. Depending on what you are canning, I think the flavor is enhanced depending on how you season. That's true, Shea Sunshine. That's so very true. It can enhance the flavor, but nevertheless, it's still altering the flavor a little bit. All right, hubby and I bought and received a book yesterday. Okay, we also plan to use a book as a resource for homeschool. That's a great idea, the nurse Juris doctor. That's a great idea, and I'm glad you bought the book. Congratulations. I'm telling you, it is a great resource to have. It is a great resource to have, and you won't regret it. Excuse me, y'all. My acid reflux acting up. But congratulations on your purchase of that book. Los Thomas says so welcome. Thank you for sharing this information. The people need this. Absolutely, absolutely. The people need this. And this is what I was saying yesterday. We have to break it down to an elementary level or beginner level, right? To a lot of people, because a lot of times we just make the assumption that people should know this or this is common knowledge with certain things. Not everything is common knowledge, because we are even if you even if you grew up doing this, you know what I'm saying? A lot of times people think, well, it's second nature. You should know this. No, a lot of people didn't grow up like that. A lot of people grew up in places like New York City or Chicago or LA, where it's like the concrete jungle, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, they may see grass and different things like that, but they don't see food growing like that. They don't see cornfields or fields of cotton and just, you know what I'm saying? If you living in the South, you know what I'm saying? Like, you could be driving down the highway or driving down the back road, you see rows of cotton, rows of this, corn, whatever it is. A lot of people don't grow up seeing that type of stuff. So they don't know. So we have to educate people at a basic level. Where did you purchase? Oh, you talking about the book? You talking about the book? You can get off Amazon. I tell people, if anything goes down, grab pressure cannon and all the paperwork. A pressure cannon can save your life and your family. Absolutely. Absolutely, Los Thomas, it absolutely can. A pressure cannon absolutely can. Just having the right tools, having the right resources, having the right things can really save your life. Having that. All right, so canning. All right, water-soluble vitamins can be retained by conserving the cooking liquid, but some others are destroyed. So you can still kind of retain some of those vitamins if you retain the liquid, because when you pressure can it, when you heat it up to a high level, a lot of those vitamins are going, they going out of the produce and they going into the liquid. So if you retain the liquid, then you still have those vitamins in there, so you're not necessarily losing most of them. Where we at? If food is canned in jars, store it in a dark place to avoid loss of riboflavin by exposure to light. I didn't know that. I didn't know that light destroys riboflavin. I didn't know that. So it says store it in a dark place, right? A cool area between 65 degrees Fahrenheit also helps retain nutrients, and 80 degrees Fahrenheit will reduce by 25% after 1 year, vitamin A by 10%, and thiamine by 20%, right? So if you don't want to destroy a lot of those vitamins and lose a lot of those vitamins, store it in a dark, cool place, right? So, and that's just what it is. So canning, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like, that's one of the preserving methods that is common, and that is, like I say, it's more easy to get into. Like, it's easier to start canning than it is to build a root cellar. You feel what I'm saying? It's easier to start canning than it is to build a smokehouse. It's easier to start canning than it is to salt things. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to buy all that salt and all that type. So I feel like pressure canning is easier than a lot of things. I tell people, okay, I read that one. Thanks, purchasing it tomorrow. Most definitely. Okay, Milan, yeah. Freezing. The most modern method of food preservation has minimum effect on flavor and food values if the food is properly prepared and carefully packaged. So I want to hit on that real quick. So freezing is another one, right? But this the thing, you don't want to, you probably don't want to freeze everything. You probably don't have the freezer space. You know what I mean? You probably got one deep freezer, or just one regular standard freezer under your refrigerator. So you probably don't have the space for it. But if you do go with freezing, you know that it's the most modern method, and it has minimal effect on the flavor. So like, if you freeze some vegetables, it's not gonna really change the flavor like that. It may change the texture a little bit when you go to cook it again, if you didn't store it properly, but the taste, it won't necessarily affect the taste. And also the vitamins in it, right? It won't really affect that. But this is the most important thing I want to hit on when it comes to freezing. Make sure you are storing it properly. Don't just throw it in your Ziploc bag and just throw it in the freezer. No, if you can, get you a vacuum sealer. If you can get, man, a vacuum sealer really changed the game for me, because I butcher a lot of meats, right? And so with butchering meats, I used to just store it in Ziploc bags and put it in deep freezer. Now, of course, I let all the air out and stuff like that, and it would last, quite a bit. But at the same time, when I start using my The name just left me. When I started vacuum sealer. When I started using my vacuum sealer and I was storing the meat in the freezer, it changed the game. It remained fresher. You know what I mean? It didn't get freezer burnt if I left it in there over an extended period of time. So if you're going to be doing the freezing method, make sure you get you a vacuum sealer, or you can manually vacuum seal by, you know, putting the Ziploc bag or whatever bag you're storing it in, putting it in water, kind of putting a little straw in it, so that way all that water is released, all that oxygen is released, and that way you can close it, and it'll have like a little seal to it. But I recommend a vacuum sealer. You know what I mean? That's just me. But if you're gonna do it, make sure you're storing it right if you're gonna freeze it. Facts. Big Apple and Chocolate City babies over here. We enjoy learning about Southern country living and putting new knowledge into practice. Most definitely. Welcome to the country lifestyle. Some veggies you need to blanch before freeze. Oh wow, She Is Sunshine. Thank you for sharing that tip. So y'all just learned something. Y'all just learned something. Blanch some of your vegetables. And if you don't mind sharing, She Is Sunshine, what are some of the vegetables that you should blanch before you freeze? If you don't mind sharing that. All right, so freezing, right? Only vitamin E and vitamin B are destroyed by the freezing process. For best results, frozen food should be stored at 0 degrees Fahrenheit and below. Vitamin C is easily oxidized. As much as half can be lost if food is kept at 15 degrees for 6 months length of storage. All right, so some of the vitamins can be lost, but it's not really bad, right? So we understand that. Now, I want to go over some of the different types of produce and the recommended storage methods. Right, so we're gonna go over that, and then I got probably, yeah, so we got a few more points, right, to hit. Let me see what they're saying. If you don't mind sharing your recommended vacuum sealer, there are so many options. I would recommend, I got the Cabela brand. I bought it from Bass Pro Shop, but the Cabela brand is a real good one. I've had it for about 2 years, 2.5 years. So it's the Cabela brand vacuum sealer, and it's I can drop a link if you want me to drop a link in the comment section of the video, or in the description. Once I'm done, I could drop a link for it. But it's the Cabela brand. That one is pretty good. And then this the good thing about the Cabela brand. You can buy the different bags. You know, you don't even have to have the brand specific bags. You can use whatever vacuum seal bags for it, and it works very, very well. And it's heavy duty. It's heavy duty. So yeah, I recommend the Cabela brand. She Is Sunshine, green beans and potatoes. Okay. Are you able to share the book? Share that book real quick. It's called Back to Basics. Back to Basics, and it's by Abigail Gearing. Back to Basics. You can get it off Amazon. Carrots can be blanched, but don't require it. Blanched corn, greens, green bean. Okay. Okay, appreciate that. She Is Sunshine, and I appreciate that, Los Thomas. I have done prep meals like cabbage and blanched and frozen it to cook later. Okay, I'll drop the link for you, the Nurse Juris Doctor. I got you. Just picked up my Korean watermelon. Now, when I ate the original, it was red, but this one was yellow. What's up with that? I'm not sure, Kashik. I'm not sure. But how it tastes though? Do it taste good? You know. Just because it's yellow don't mean it don't taste good. All right, so these are some of the types of produce in the recommended storage methods. So apples, live storage, meaning you can just store them live. Make sure they're in a good, oh, it was great. Yeah, so, I mean, if it was good, then it don't matter the color, you know what I mean? But apples, you can store them live, making sure, but of course you want to make sure they're at the right temperature. Canning, so you can can them. Making jams and jelly, so you can make jams and jelly out of it too. And also drying. And so like when it comes to my figs, right? When I be harvesting my figs, what I like to do is make jellies and jams from my figs. And that's how I really preserve my figs. Now, of course, you can eat them, you know, raw and different things like that and make other stuff. But that's just my preferred method because I feel like it lasts longer and I don't got to go buy jelly from the stove. You know what I'm saying? With all those preservatives and additives. You know, because it's real easy to, man, I'm going to be honest with y'all. It's real easy to make a lot of this stuff that a lot of people are so used to going to the store and buying. Butter. It's easy to make butter. It's easy to make jellies and jams. It's easy to make bread. You know what I'm saying? It's easy to make alcohol, wine. It's easy to make vinegar. You feel what I'm saying? Apple cider vinegar. You can make your own apple cider vinegar. It's easy to make a lot of these things. What's going on, Nathan? I was just shocked. It was difficult. Yeah, no, I know what you mean though. I know what you mean. We grow yellow watermelon here in South Georgia. Yeah, I seen it. I seen a lot of people with the yellow watermelon this year. I just didn't get none, but I probably want to get some next year or either grow some. I'm in Maryland. I'm trying to grow lots of melons next year, for sure. Me too. We grew a lot of melons this year, actually. Like I juiced a lot of watermelon, and that's another way to kind of preserve fruits and vegetables. You could juice them as well. You could juice them and freeze them, or you could just juice them and just drink them. You know what I mean? But I like to juice a lot of fresh produce and stuff like that because you get in the vitamins and stuff, but you get it in the liquid form, so you don't got to eat a lot of the fiber that come along with it. You could just still get vitamins and nutrients just by drinking it. Red watermelon gets its color from lycopene, lysophene, the same antioxidant that makes tomatoes, and pink grapefruit red. Yellow watermelon lacks, okay, so it naturally turns yellow to golden instead, most definitely. And the north start them early for sure. All right, so that's apples. So apricots. Apricots, you can can them, make jams and jelly, and you can dry them. That's another thing. Dried fruits are great. I love dried fruits. Dried apples, dried bananas, you know, and you can use them in different ways, or you can just eat them as snacks. You know what I'm saying? But yes, drying them is definitely like getting a freeze dryer or something to dry your fruits and your produce and your vegetables or whatever. You can dry them out. You can even dry your meat out as well. Asparagus, canning and freezing. Beans, green beans, canning, freezing, salt curing. Lima beans, you can can them, freeze them, or dry them. Beets, live storage. That's because beet is a root vegetable. So yes, you can live store it just at the right temperature, but it's a root vegetable, so it's gonna be able to tolerate a lot more than some other produce as well. Canning, salt curing, freezing. Broccoli, freezing. Cabbage, live storage, salt curing. I didn't know that as far as the salt curing with cabbage. Carrots, live storage, canning, freezing. Cauliflower, freezing, salt curing. Radishes, live storage. Tomatoes, canning, salt curing. So you can salt cure your tomatoes, but you can also dry your tomatoes out too. You can sun dry them. All right, so those are just some examples of some types of produce and the recommended storage methods. But you can store them how you want to. That's just what's recommended. You could do it however you want to do it. That's why I say, man, like, learn the basics, but put your own flavor on it. Put your own twist to it. You know, don't rely on somebody else's methods and what works for them. I mean, it could work for you, but you want to get what works. You want to adjust it to your liking, because their dynamics are not your dynamics. Their circumstances are not your circumstances. They taste buds ain't your taste buds. Like, I like pickled stuff, but some people don't like pickled stuff. So if you just seeing me pickling and that's what you want to do because you see me do it, that ain't gonna make sense. That ain't gonna make sense because you don't even like nothing pickled. You feel what I'm saying? But I love it. You know what I mean? So it's just like learning the different methods and doing what you want to do with it, because you might just prefer it to be fresh. See how you can live store it, or you don't mind if you blanch it, or you don't mind if you can it. So it's just learning the basics and kind of doing with it what you want. I've been dehydrating fruits for my bunny, and he loves them. Most definitely. Our 9-year-old makes the makes the family sourdough, lemon pastries, and banana bread. Cupcakes and muffins from scratch. She inspired by gardening, farming, and homesteading YouTube channel like yours. Oh, most definitely. Oh, that mean a lot. I'm glad she inspired. I'm glad she inspired for sure. But that's amazing though. As a 9-year-old doing that, that's amazing. Like an organic Twizzler. Kimchi involves salting cabbage, blanched broccoli for freezing. Yeah, I love kimchi too. Different palette for different folks. Exactly, different strokes for different folks. What I like, you might not like, and vice versa. Exactly. So don't just be trying to copy people. That's why I say you wanna be inspired. You want to be inspired to go out and make it your own. You don't want to be inspired to copy nobody. You know what I mean? Because copying never leads to nothing good, because eventually you get tired of copying other people, and then you'll quit altogether. Because you feel like, well, I copied them gardening and I copied them doing this, and now you just done threw away everything. You ain't even growing your own food no more because you getting tired of it, because you didn't customize the methods to your liking. All right, so let's get into some other ways of preserving produce. Salt curing. Salt curing alters the taste of food. Although in the case of pickling and fermenting, the results are delicious, and that's subjective, right? But it alters the taste of food. That's one thing you need to know if you're thinking about salt curing. It's gonna alter the taste. If salt curing is done in a strong salt solution, nutritional value is greatly reduced because the food must be thoroughly washed before it can be eaten. A process that will rinse away vitamins and minerals. So depending on the solution, the salt solution you're doing to salt cure your food, you can lose a lot of the nutrients. You can lose a lot of it, you know, because you're gonna have to thoroughly wash. Because of course, you're gonna have to thoroughly wash it. You don't want to eat salt, you know. You don't want your blood pressure to shoot up but you wanna wash all that salt off. You know what I mean? So in doing that, you're gonna lose a lot of the minerals and the vitamins that's in that produce. Where we at? A weaker salt solution will preserve more nutrients, but there will be a greater risk to spoil it. So again, you got pros and cons. So if you use a strong salt solution, when it's come time to eat this food, you will have to rinse so much off that you're gonna lose a lot of the nutrients and vitamins. But if you use a weaker solution, then you ain't gonna lose a lot of nutrients, but it may spoil easier. It may not last as long because the solution wasn't strong. So it's depending on how you want to do it. I think fermented foods are delicious. They surely hit different. Yeah, me too. I like fermented foods. We as African Americans need to be cautious with salting methods. Our blood pressure. Exactly, Los. That's what I was just saying, because I'm like, you're gonna have to oh, there's something on my camera. You're gonna have to thoroughly rinse a lot of this stuff off if you're gonna be salt curing, because you know you mess around and don't rinse it off thoroughly, and there's still a lot of sodium in that. Your blood pressure gonna shoot up. Head gonna go to hurting, and you know, start looking crazy around here. So no, yeah, you gotta be careful with it. You gotta be careful. But in the event of a survival, you know, in a survival event, you gonna have to do what you gotta do. You have to do what you gotta do. You feel me? So, but yeah, definitely be careful. But all right, so salt curing. That's salt curing. It says salt curing, nor is salt curing reliable for truly long-term storage. So if you want to store something, long-term, salt curing may not be the method. You say stroke. Let's not speak that on nobody. But no, for sure though, if you're not careful with a lot of that sodium, yes, that could happen. So yeah, be careful with all that. So it's not reliable for truly long-term storage. Pickles, sauerkraut, and radishes must be canned if they are to be stored for more than a few weeks. So that's the thing. Even though you're salting it, if you want to store it longer, you're gonna have to can it. So it's like now you're doing two preservation methods when you could have just did one from the beginning. Now, unless you want the taste from it, that's different. But if you're just talking about in terms of efficiency, and you just talking about in terms of you just wanting to store up produce and for survivability, and just, you know, so you and your family can thrive, then salt curing might not be the best option for you. All right, jellying, right? Changes the taste of foods because of large amounts of sugar, honey, or other sweetener that are needed in order to form a gel. In addition, some vitamins are lost during the heating process required to sterilize the fruit and make an airtight seal. So yeah, that's the thing about jellying. Like, it's gonna change the taste, of course, but guess what? The taste is gonna be great because it's gonna be sweet. So, you know, that's a win-win in my opinion. But you gotta be careful because, again, what it say, some vitamins will be lost. So it's like, yeah, you could jelly some of it, but don't go jellying all your fruit produce. You know, you probably want to store store some in other ways. Preserve some in other ways. All right, last one is drying. Retains a high percentage of most vitamins, but if dried foods are stored for long periods, considerable destruction of vitamins A, C, and E can result in the oxidation. Can result because of oxidation. I'm sorry. Especially if food has not been properly blanched. In addition, vitamins A and E and some B complex vitamins are broken down by light. As a result, considerable food value can be lost during the drying outdoors in direct sunlight. I don't think most people really care about the vitamin loss, you know, as long as it's not too drastic. I don't think most people care. So it's just like, just understanding like, yes, some vitamins and minerals will be lost in some of these processes, but if you're just trying to survive, you don't really care about that. You just need something that has some nutritional value and some value to be able to get you through the day, to give you some energy, to give you some fuel. You know what I mean? But drying is a great option though. Drying is a great option. I be having to watch my surroundings because you know you be having all type of little, like I live in the country, like you can have a stray dog or a dog on something. So I be having, when I be hearing stuff, I be having to look around. Two underrated medicinal herbs are the magnolia tree and any camellia. Didn't know that. I appreciate that, Funny Teens. Hey, welcome back, Funny Teens. I remember seeing you on another live too. But drying. So drying is a great option. All right. So last point I want to hit. It's talking about maintaining a winter garden, and it says the simplest method of preserving garden produce is to leave it right where it is in the garden. And we kind of hit on this. I want to say, was it yesterday? All right, sorry about that. Let me know if I'm back on. Let me know if y'all can hear me. Let me know if y'all can hear me. I know it be going out sometimes when somebody called me. Let me know if y'all can hear me in the chat. Hey, I appreciate y'all for hitting that like button too, man. I appreciate y'all. Let me know if y'all can hear me. Okay, I'm back. Appreciate it, G-Mom. Appreciate it. All right, the simplest method of preserving garden produce is to leave it right where it is, in the garden. I talked about that, right, in the previous live. It's certain crops you could just leave out there, especially in the wintertime, right? The technique is particularly suitable for root crops, such as radishes, beets, and carrots, and parsnips. And see, that's another thing, right? When it comes to, okay, appreciate it tonight, Way. My husband recommends smoking beef, and particularly steaks and filet cuts, which are best for flavor, texture, and digestion. Okay, most definitely, yeah. Yeah, definitely smoking, yeah, I agree. I like smoked meats too. Didn't know you left. Okay, cool. Yeah, cause sometimes cause I'm live on my phone and sometimes people will call me and it'll cut out for a minute. So I just wanted to make sure. But and so mind you, this is winter. So the simplest method is preserving a lot of garden produce is leaving it where it is in the garden in the winter time. You don't want to do that in the summertime. You don't want to do that in the fall. You don't want to do that where it has the risk of spoiling or something eating it or you know what I'm saying? This is wintertime. And I'm gonna tell y'all something, like if you are growing food for, you know what I'm saying, self-sufficiency purposes, survival purposes, grow a lot of root crops. Grow a lot of root crops. Grow a lot of, you know, potatoes, grow a lot of beets, you know, things like that, because first off, you're gonna get an abundant harvest, but also you can grow them pretty much year round. You know what I mean? And the nutritional value, but also just the satisfaction you'll get, you know what I'm saying, from a potato. Like, you know, potatoes can get you through a lot. Like when I do my Daniel fast, right? Because I do eat potatoes during my Daniel fast. When I'm not eating meat and stuff like that, potatoes get me through. You know what I'm saying? Root vegetables get me through, you know, different things like beets, you know what I'm saying? Sweet potatoes, regular potatoes. But root vegetables are good survival foods to grow. So when you planting out your garden, make sure you're growing a few different kind of root vegetables because it's going to give you a lot of bang for your buck. And like I say, you can grow them pretty much year round. But even tomatoes can be kept beyond their normal season with little more than a covering of earth and straw to help maintain temperature. So that's another trick. That's another tip. If you're going, you know what I'm saying, kind of leave your stuff out, make sure you're covering it with straw, because that straw will allow it to kind of have some sort of insulation and it'll allow it to retain a certain temperature. You feel what I'm saying? Learn different recipes will keep you interested in root veggies. Exactly.